right, so I just wanted to cover, this is going to be forcible entry. This is the introduction. I just want to talk a little bit about the commands and the tool that we're going to use before we get started. So with forcible entry, there's going to be 4 commands total that we need to use. There's going to be hit. So hit, what it's going to be is, I expect 1 hit from the guy that has the axe. Drive is going to be a continuous hit, and that guy that's hitting is going to continue to hit until the guy with the Halligan says stop. So stop is our 3rd one. When he stops, you might expect 1 additional hit if he didn't hear you. So just make sure that before you go to move that he's done hitting. And then capture. So the 4th word is capture. If we make progress and I need to switch ends of this tool, I need him to capture the progress in the gap of the door. When I say capture, my expectation is that the axe comes around and he puts the axe blade or a wood wedge into that door jamb and captures that progress. So again, we have hit, we have drive, we have stop, and we have capture. That should be the 4. That's all we need to use for forcing a door. Looking at the Halligan real quick, it can be confusing when you walk up to figure out if we have an outward or inward swinging door, what step 1 is. If you keep it in your mind that the primary tool on this bar is our adz end at all times. It doesn't matter if the door is upside down, backwards, inward, outward. We were always going to use the adz end to start the process of forcing the door. So just remember that the adz is the primary and our backup and our secondary is going to be the fork end. Don't ever start a force entry with just the forks. The techniques just don't work as well. So going from that, let's just talk about pushing and pulling with forces. Just through trial and error, we've noticed that if you come in to a door and you use all your force to pull back, the tendency is if the tool slips out of the door or the door actually forces, all of your weight is going to be leaned back, and the tendency is that everyone's been falling down. So if it's an inward swinging door and you're pulling into the door, there's a potential for you to fall in and through the door. That's not what we want. There's a couple instances where you may have to pull to get that started. For instance, on an outward swinging door, once I get this drove all the way in, I may actually have to pull this out to a position where I can get around it. Once I have that position, take the extra seconds to get behind this bar and push. What that does, it gives you a lot more force, but if this tool slips or the door comes open, I'm always on this knee and I won't fall down. So just always push if you can. Let's just talk a little bit about striking with the axe. So I'll have John come over here and help me. We're gonna force this as an outward swinging door. Before I even get there, let's just talk about size ups as well. When we walk up to a door, the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out, do we have an outward or do we have an inward swinging door? The best way to figure that out, if I walk up to this door, I'm sizing it up. I have a steel frame. This most likely is gonna be a concrete wall because it's a steel frame. It could be brick or a cinder block. I have a steel door. So that's gonna tell me this is gonna be a pretty difficult process to get this open. I'm looking, I see hinges on the outside, and I also see that the door is flush with the jamb. That tells me this is an outward swinging. So 2 things, you can see the hinges, I've got a flush door. So my process would be to always, again, start with my primary. No matter what this is, I don't want to come up and start trying to jam that in. So we're gonna come in, make a purchase. Okay, I've got my purchase. Again, this door won't bend just because it's a prop. So for the positioning, I want to push force straight into the door here. I don't want to push force up. I don't want to push force down. That's just going to drive my tool out. If he strikes it and I have force on that, it's going to pop it out. So when I go to have him strike, I want to make sure I have a square pressure on that and that I have a good stance here. If you look at John here, he's going to be down on 1 knee. The goal is to be eye level with the strike, and I want to be about a 30 to 45 degree angle on the axe head. What that does, when he swings, my goal is to make contact with as much surface area as I can. Traditionally, if you flip around to a baseball style swing with the hips, that really decreases my surface area here. If he swings and misses up, it's just going to glance off. But if he swings and misses down, it's going to drive my tool out of that door. So to get eye level, he can focus just on this and I can focus on the tool. So if you want to come around, we're going to get around. I'm going to try these commands. So again, if I say hit, it's going to be 1 strike. I don't need to look at John ever, and he shouldn't be looking at me. he should be focused on this square, and I'll be focused on my tool. Hit, hit, hit. Okay, I just felt that hit the stop. Now I want him to drive so I can finish this off. I'm gonna apply a little bit of back pressure here. Drive. Stop. So he won't stop hitting until I say stop. Just make sure you say that out loud and clear so he can hear us. Explain a couple things in step-by-step process. This is going to be an outward swinging door first. On all of our Halligans now, we're going to mark at least a 2-inch. This is your highest leverage point here. And we're going to also mark the crotch of the forks. You want to drive all the way up to these lines at least before we actually use force and put force on the bar. So first thing we're going to do, when you walk up, you always want to size up your door. Do we have any lag bolts? Look at the construction of the door. This is a steel door. We're going to have a steel frame. It'll change. Residential will probably be wood frame, and that's going to change our tactics just a little bit. So as I walk up, I'm going to size this up. Remember on the tool, the adz end is always your primary, fork's always your secondary. So that way you always start with the right side. You're going to come in, and we're going to try to provide a purchase point. You should be able to do this by yourself. If it's a super tight door, you can actually have your partner come in and give that a hit. So for this door, I don't need to do that. What we're gonna do on this door is just simulate making a purchase point because I can't in this door. But we're gonna push a downward force like this and create, just like an extrication, a purchase point. What that's gonna do is provide us an area to push the adz in and get a stop for that adz. At this point, I can come in, I'm gonna have my partner come in. The commands, it's gonna be hit and drive. He's not gonna stop moving until I make the command. So, hit, hit, hit. Okay, so I just hit the stop in the door. That's where this mark is on our Halligan. Once I feel that stop hit, I'm not gonna go and try to force. About 60% of the time, I'm gonna lose the door if I do that. I'm gonna pull back. I'm gonna see if I can bury this tool. Hit, 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 drive. Stop. So now you can see I'm all the way in. This allows that adz to wrap that door all the way, and now I have full capture of that. The chances of me slipping that are very minimal at this point. So for me to create that, I'm gonna pull here. Once I get here, the best motion and gives you the most force is to reposition into a pushing motion. We should always be pushing instead of pulling if possible. So all right, so this is an inward swinging door. A couple different steps in this process compared to the outward swinging door. Again, the primary on the tool is always going to be your adz end. Secondary is going to be your fork. When I walk up, again, we're going to size up the door. Got a metal frame, got a metal door. I don't see any lag bolts insinuating that there's a drop or anything back here. So my first move on an inward swinging is I want to try to gap the door. Another option is you can shock this door as well. If you're going to shock, you always want to use your fork end. That gives your palm something to rest on, and you get a lot more force. If you use this side, if you're not exactly on, you'll hit and lose all your force if you're off. So if you're going to shock, always do it with the fork end and shock that way. The second method, the second step, sorry, is going to be to gap your door. You're always going to push the adz into the stop here, and then we're always going to go opposite of the spike. So if it's on the other side, I would actually be pushing up. On this side, we're going to be pushing down. Again, just opposite of that spike. When I get to this point, I don't want to lose this progress. So I'm going to have my partner come in and capture. The command for this is capture. He's going to capture that progress there. I can now switch to my secondary forks here. I have two options. I can go bevel towards the door, or I can go bevel towards the jamb. The advantage of bevel towards the jamb, it's a lot easier to drive that tool. However, I'm going to lose a little bit of leverage when I go to force. I'm going to have to go push in. I'll probably lose 6 inches. We'll start here. So I'm going to try to capture with my tool, have him retrieve his tool. And then again, back to our commands. Number one command is hit. It's only one hit. I do not want to look back and watch him hit. I always want to be watching my tool here. Hit, hit, drive. So as you can see, I stopped on this mark that we're going to put on all of your guys' tools. That's going to give me the most leverage. You want to go all the way to the crotch of that tool. So I'm going to go into force. It's always a pushing motion. Okay, I get here. I don't want to lose that again. But one of my disadvantages of going bevel towards the jam is I'm going to lose about 6 inches of force. So capture. So at this point, I'm going to go back to my primary tool. If I can use the adze the whole time, I will. But if I can get this around the jam, that's going to work almost every time. Again, back to a pushing motion always. If I'm on this side and I'm pulling, the chances of falling through the door are a lot higher. So it should just be a simple push. And don't forget to control your door.